So I'm going to start recording this. We're going to be using an architect scale. And so what you're seeing here in this video is an architect scale. So this is the fancier one that has the colored sides, so you instantly know which side you're on. But there are multiple different scales on these drawings, and it has this kind of triangular end piece of it. So this is what we use in the architecture and construction profession. So architecture, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, they all use the architect scale. And it's all based on feet and inches. So an architect scale is used to determine actual dimensions of a distance on a scale drawing. When you draw in AutoCAD, you tell the computer how far apart you want something, and then you print it to an appropriate scale. So you're drawing proportionally correct, and then you're printing it down to the size that you need to. The reason we do draw things to scale or to a smaller area is to allow them to fit on the paper, because we couldn't put a whole building on the paper, right? So here's an inch, and I'm going to show a video that goes through this, and this PowerPoint will be online. You can go back through it, and the videos are live linked, so you can go through the PowerPoint and click on the video. But this is an inch, and when you see that 16 up there, that means the inch is broken down into 1/16ths of an inch. So each little tick mark is a 1/16th of an inch. So I found a good video on that I want to share with you. So I'm going to do that right now, and you watch that, and then we'll come back and talk more about the architect scale.
Dr. Dixon, I just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce some of you to measurement for the first time. And so you should have with you your tape measure. And if you look at your tape measure should have 16 ticker marks in between a 1-inch space. So let's count really fast to make sure you have the correct tape measure or ruler that has 16 ticker marks in between a 1-inch space. So if you start with the shortest line just after, let's say, the 6-inch mark, let's count. There should be 16 ticker marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 7 makes the 16th inch mark. So there are 16 ticker marks between a 1-inch space on your ruler. So now let's look at this in a different format. I have taken the liberty of
2/16 reduces an eighth. 3/16, 4/16. 4/16 reduced becomes a quarter. 5/16, 6/16. 6/16 reduced down to its lowest common denominator is 3/8. 7/16, 8/16, and it goes along. So you'll notice they're all odd numbers: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and then 1, 3, 5, 7, and then 1, 3, and then 1, because that you can't divide it by 2 anymore. So you have to understand, the reason you need to know this is to understand how big, what that ruler means that that you have. That's your regular foot and inch ruler. You're the only one who got to see the video. So does that make sense? And you can watch the video. The link is on Blackboard. I'll show you where it is. It's also in my PowerPoint on Blackboard. We good with that part? You guys have to talk to me.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so if you pull onto Blackboard, if you pull this PowerPoint up, you'll see a live link. I'll show you. I also have just the videos. So this is what an architect scale looks like. It's called a triangular scale. And this right here is this part right up here. Can you see my pointer?
No.
No. I can't see your pointer.
No.
Huh. Now you can see my hand now, right?
I can see the slide.
Yes.
There it goes.
Yeah. little hand. Okay, so this is a regular inch ruler going up to 6 inches. And then each side is broken up into two different ways. This one has 3/4 of an inch on this side, and this one has 3/8 of an inch on this side. And it'll be more clear when you have the actual scale ruler in front of you. So I will give you that on Wednesday, and I will give you your assignment that you're going to do over the weekend. And you'll notice the 0 starts over here. And then there's all these tick marks between the end of the scale and the 0. This represents a full foot at 3/8 of an inch scale. And it's broken down into inches and fractions of an inch, depending on how big it is. So here's 3/4 of a scale, here's the 0, and then this represents a full foot. And if this picture were a little bit bigger, you'd see that this was 3/69. And it goes on and on. This is 3/16 and 3/32. So the big scale goes in one direction, the small scale goes in the opposite direction. I have a couple videos that I'll show you in a second that will help to explain this a little bit more. So before you start using an architect's scale or ruler, you need to know what scale you're drawing to or what scale you're measuring from. So it'll always say on a drawing the scale is 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. It's always 1/4 of an inch equals a foot, 1/8 inch equals a foot. Then you're going to find the correct scale on the ruler. So if it's saying that the drawing is drawn at 1/8 inch, that means that for every 1/8 of an inch on the drawing, that equals a full foot. So we have a scale set up that has those on there. And you just have to make sure that you're using the correct scale because we have them going in opposite direction. One scale reads from left to right and the other from right to left. And there's always one that's twice as large as the other. So 1/8 shares with 1/4, 1/2 shares with 1 inch, 3/16 shares with 3/32, 3/8 shares with 3/4, and 1 1/2 shares with 3. So you'll see as numbers going up and down in both directions. The larger numbers correspond to the larger scale on that drawing, on that side of the ruler. So if we're at the 1/4 inch, that's the bigger scale. So the big numbers refer to the 1/4 inch scale. The small numbers would refer to the 1/8 inch scale. So look at which one's bigger and which one's small, and you'll see them going up progressively. And then what happens is the small scale will also use the tick marks for the big scale because it's half the size. So it's using one of the tick marks for the big scale, but the bigger scale has its own tick marks. And this will make more sense with the other videos and when you start to work on it. So again, here's the 1/8 inch. This one you can see really clearly. So here's 1/8 inch going across this way. It's the small numbers. And here's 1/4 inch is the big numbers coming across. So for 1/4 inch, this is a foot at 1/4 inch scale. So here's 0 feet. They don't mark 1 because there's not enough room for it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on up to 22. And then for the 1/8 inch, here's the 0, and this is a foot broken down into inches. So here's 0 feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you got to really watch which numbers you're using. Does that make sense to people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll watch a couple videos that'll show how to do it. And the same thing with 3/8. 3/8 is small, half the size of 3/4. So at the 1/4 inch, when you go to look at it, you'll count and you're going to tell me what each tick represents. So if I have 12 ticks there, no, sorry, if I have 16 ticks, no, 12 ticks there, how many inches would each tick mark be? Remember, this is a whole foot. How many inches are in a foot? 12. Yeah. So what would each tick mark be?
Be 1 inch.
Be 1 inch. Okay. At 1/8 inch, we only have 6 tick marks. So what would each tick mark represent?
Half of one.
No, that would be 24 tick marks.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm actually pretty lost right now.
That's okay. This is a hard concept even when we're face to face, let alone being remote. So this is a whole foot here. When you're in doubt, you can always find where the 6-inch mark is, which is this longer one here. And you're going to play with this when I get you scales on Wednesday, okay? So if that's 6 inches and I've got 2 more marks there, what would each tick mark represent?
That's a whole foot.
Hey, louder.
2 inches.
Alejandro says 2 inches. So at 1/8 inch, we can only measure to the nearest 2 inches. At 1/4 inch, we can only measure to the nearest 1 inch. That's as accurate as we can be on those scales. If we're drawing on AutoCAD, some of you are in AutoCAD right now, if we're drawing on the computer, we can tell the computer how accurate we want it to be, and it can be precise at any scale. But as humans, and with hand drawing and with how good our eyes are, we're not going to be as precise as you would be on the computer. So when I ask you to give me a measurement at 1/8 inch scale, and I ask you to measure a line, it is going to have to be some feet and a multiple of 2 inches. You can't be any more accurate than the scale is. Does that concept make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're going to do, and we're going to watch a video in just a second, you're going to find the scale that you need to measure on your architect's scale that you have here. And you're going to put the scale, I like to put it above the line so I can read it easily. And when I'm measuring a line, it doesn't matter if I measure from the left-hand corner end or the right-hand end, because it's going to be the same. So I like to put the scale above the line, and then I line up the 0 on the end of the line, and I see how many feet it is. What's the closest feet without going, so if it's between 34 and 35 feet, then I would move the 0 back down to the end of the line. You'll see this in a second. And I would count how many inches I get. So it'll make sense when we watch the video. Then you're going to write your answer in feet and inches. You don't write 0 feet, but you do write 0 inches. And you always will have a dash between feet and inches. And then you're going to have a space between the inch number and the fraction. So here's an example. 3 feet dash 10 space 1/2 inches. 6 feet dash 0 inches. So even if I have 0 inches, if it's even 6 feet, I want to write 0 inches. But if it's 0 feet, I'm not writing that. I'm just writing 8 space 1/2 inch. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have another video. This time, I'm going to stop sharing and share it the correct way. So this is a video. I've got 2 videos here on how to read a scale. There's a 3rd one on Blackboard that you can watch on your own time, okay?
Well, and this is how to read an architect scale. The type of architect scale we're going to look at is used to make measurements on a drawing that is dimensioned in feet and inches, like architectural drawings. You see, architectural drawings, like house plans, are drawn to a particular scale. In this case, a 1/4 inch on the drawing represents 1 foot in real life. The cabinets on the drawing are 12 feet 8 inches wide. If you measure the drawing of the cabinets with a regular ruler, you would see that they would be a little longer than 3 inches wide. To get an exact measurement, we would need to do some calculations. Here is an architect scale. When we use a scale like this, we don't need to do any calculations. Architect scales are designed to work with scaled drawings. On an architect scale, there are different marks for the foot and the inch parts of the measurement. On one side of this 0 is where you measure the feet, and on the other side is where the inches come from. One of the keys to understanding a scale like this is to see that the part where you get the inches, the end with the small marks, is really just an ordinary 12-inch long ruler that has been shrunk down to the scale you're using. The hardest part is figuring out what each small mark means. First, we want to be sure we're using the right scale. You see that this scale is labeled 1/4. This means that you use this scale on drawings that are drawn to a scale of 1/4 inch equals a foot, like our cabinet drawing. Let's look at the inch part of the scale first. Now, remember that I said the inch part of the ruler is just an ordinary 12-inch long ruler that has been shrunk down to the scale you're using? Well, with this scale, it's easy to see that. Look closely and count the number of marks on this teeny tiny 12-inch ruler. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There, easy. Each mark represents 1 inch. Let's look at a different scale. Let's look at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. Notice that this scale is at the other end of the ruler. On this scale, the inch part is on the left and the feet are on the right. Now remember that we said that the inch part of an architect scale is just a 12-inch long ruler that has been shrunk down to the scale you're using? Let's take a close look at the 12-inch ruler here and see what each mark means. Last time we said that each mark represented 1 inch. Well, this scale is tinier than the last one and it doesn't seem to have as many marks. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you see that each mark on this scale represents 2 inches instead of just 1? Good! That's the hardest part of using this kind of scale, figuring out what each mark on the inch part represents. Now let's look at one more scale. Let's look at the scale for 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. First, we look for the 0, and we find here the inches are on the left and the feet are on the right. We'll remember that this part of the ruler represents a 12-inch long ruler that has been shrunk down to the scale we're using. Now, let's count the marks. 1, 2, 3, wait a minute, there's too many to count. Let's do this a faster way. Since we know that this is a 12-inch long ruler that's been shrunk down, we know that halfway is 6 inches, and half of that is 3 inches. That would make this 1 inch, and the smallest mark is 1/2 inch. I think you understand the inch part of these scales. Let's move to the easy part. Let's look at the part of the scale that is used to measure whole feet. Now, remember how we said that the inch part of an architect scale is a 12-inch ruler that's been shrunk down? I thought you did. Now, remember that 12 inches equals 1 foot. We'll look at the inch part of the ruler to see how big a foot would be at this scale. There. Now, let's flip that foot over and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. What's that? Oh, I see. Sparky said someone is asking about the extra marks and numbers. Those marks are counting whole feet from the other end of the scale. On this ruler, the 1/8 inch equals a foot scale is on the same part of the ruler as the 1/4 inch equals a foot. You just read them from different ends. See how this scale is counting in the other direction? 40, 41, 42, 43, 44. You can just ignore the extra marks coming from the other end of the ruler. So let's dive in and take some measurements. When we measure with an architect scale, we'll first measure the number of feet, then slide the ruler over and measure the inches. Here, I'll show you. We start by putting the item to be measured at the 0 mark. Now, count the number of whole feet. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, slide the ruler over to the last whole foot. Now, measure the inches. 1, 2, 3. So the measurement is 3 feet, 3 inches. Now, we're going to let you try a few. I'll position the reading at 0 and then slide the ruler over and let you measure the feet and the inches. When you see Sparky's pause the video and write down your answer. First, here's one at the same 1/4 inch equals a foot scale. Hit the pause button and think about it. The reading is 2 feet.
All right. What did you guys get for that one? Oh, I went to. What did anybody get for that? Hello?
2 feet and 11 inches.
Yeah. So do you see in here, this is 12 inches from here to here. It's 12 inches.
We can't see your pointer.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is 12 inches from here to here.
Yeah.
If I don't know what it is, I always look for the halfway point, which is 6 inches right here, right? So that means this is 3, 6, 9, 12. So I know it's between 9 and 12. And if I'm trying to figure out what each tick marks, I know this is 3, so this has got to be 1 and 2. So I can measure to the nearest 1 inch at quarter inch. So it's 9, 10, 11. You could count all of them, but it's easier to try to find that midpoint and get 6 inches, and then am I less or more than that? Okay, let's continue on with Sparky here.
The reading is 2 feet 11 inches. Did you get that? Good. Let's try a harder one. We'll try one at 1/8 of an inch equals a foot. Pause the video and take your time on this one.
Okay, so what did we say at 1/8 of an inch? So here, this is 12 inches right here at 1/8 of an inch, right? What did we say each tick mark represents?
4 inches. It was every 2 inches, right?
2 inches. And if you don't know, I know this is 0, this is 12 inches, that's 6. So it's going to be 2, 4, 6, right? So what's the answer to this?
Uh,
3 feet 12 inches? Or
5 feet. No, wait.
5 feet 4 inches.
5 feet 4 inches. Okay, so this one's a little tricky because remember the 1/8 is a smaller number. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet.
5.
This number is coming from the quarter inch end, right? So we got 5 feet and then 2, 4 inches. So 5 feet, 4 inches.
Did you say 5 feet 4 inches? If you did, you really know what you're doing. If not, let's have a look at what marks to count. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet. And each inch mark counts as 2 inches. The numbers 20 and 22 are from the other side of the ruler, so just ignore them. We'll do one more. If you get this one, you'll be ready for that test tomorrow. Okay, pause the video.
Okay, we're at 3/4 of an inch scale. So what you need to do first is from here to here is 12 inches, right? So what I want to do is I want to find where 6 inches is, right there. Which means these other two long lines are 3 and 9. So 0, 3, 6, 9, 12. So if this is 3 inches, figure out where 1 and 2 are. So what does each tick represent on this one, do you think?
And a half.
A half an inch.
Yeah, a half an inch.
Yep. So what's the answer on here?
1 feet, 1.5 inch.
Each tick is 1/2 inch.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it'll be
1
1
feet
feet,
1 inch.
1 inch.
1 foot, 1 inch. Yep.
1 feet, 1.
The correct reading is 1 foot 1 inch. Well, that's all the time we have for now. If you want more practice problems or if I need to clear something else up,
Okay. Let me go back to our classroom. So I've got 2 more videos. I'm going to show you one, and then this other one I want you to watch on your own time. You can't watch enough of them. It's really important that you understand and learn how to do this, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to either draw or measure drawings. And if you're in carpentry, oh my gosh, reading the scale is so important, and understanding the parts, the feet and inches. And if you're in plumbing with Don, he makes you learn how to read a scale too. So anything in construction, you're going to need to know this. So I'm going to play the last video, and then we're going to regroup, and we'll talk about our meeting on Wednesday. Let me start the last video. And as I said, there's one more that I want you to watch on your own time.
So if you look back at the ruler that we using today are in the scale of feet and inches. So just be aware of that for those of you who are in different parts of the world. So if you look back at the ruler that we have here, you can see that there's a lot of numbers. So where I want you to start first is look at all the way down to the end of the scale. And you can see that there's two numbers, quarter and 1. And on this side, there's an eighth and a half. Now these are the scales that are on this ruler. There's actually 12 of them on this ruler. So how do you know which one of the 12 to use? Well, it's pretty simple because you just need to look at the scale that your drawing is drawn in. So you can see that the drawings themselves are actually drawn in quarter scale, meaning for every quarter inch, it equals 1 foot. So then if you look back at the ruler, it's very easy. We find the quarter scale, and you can see that's right here. So as we look at the quarter scale, you can see that there's a 0 line. There's numbers on the bottom. There's also numbers on the top. Remember that each side of the scale here is working with two different scale systems. So on this side is quarter, and on this side is an eighth. So we're using quarter scale. The quarter numbers are on the bottom. So moving from 0 over to 2, 4, 6, and so on, that's measured in feet. And then when you go to the right of the 0 this way, this is a measurement in inches. And for the quarter inch scale, it's very easy because each line or mark represents 1 inch. And there's 12 of them adding up to 1 foot. Let's take a measurement then so you can see exactly what this looks like. So if I show you, we're taking a look at the kitchen plan, and you can see here we're going to verify this 13 feet 6 inches. It's a measurement from this outside wall to this inside wall of the kitchen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide the ruler up, and I'm going to start my 0 mark close to this edge line, and I'm just going to look down 2, 4, 6, 8, and I can see that I can get to 13 pretty easily. So what I do is I actually take and put the 13 mark here on the left side, and then I know that I am 13 feet all the way back to my 0, and then I can go ahead and count in inches. And so for this case, each one of these is 3, so 3, 6. So 13 foot 6 is the measurement. Let's move on to something a little bit more complicated because the quarter scale, like I said before, is pretty simple. So let's slide down the ruler here and go ahead and take a look at the 1/8 inch scale. Now, first off, you can see that the 1/8 inch scale is different than the quarter scale, and you can see it in the inches. There's less marks than there was on the quarter scale. So same principles apply. In this case, we're using the top numbers because we're on the other side of the scale. So here we're starting at 0 and then going to 4, 8, 12, all the way down. But moving to the left, again, you can see that there's a lot less marks. But knowing that these are in inches still and that these have to add up to 12, you can notice then that if we do the math, that each one of these marks is 2 inches and not 1 like the quarter inch scale. And that's really the hardest problem about reading an architectural scale is just figuring out the inches. But if you take some time to look at these and knowing that these all have to add up to 12, you can pretty much figure them out with just a little bit of effort. Let's take a look at one more then just to help you better understand the scale. Let's take a look at the 3 inch. Now this one's completely different. So as we take a look at this, you can see that the 0 mark is right here. So we know going to the left is still feet. So there's 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, and then we're on the other side of the scale, which is 1.5 inches. But we're looking at this side, which is this 3 inch. So then moving from the 0 line over this way, we know that all of these marks have to add up in inches to 12 inches equaling 1 foot. So now we can see that from here to here is 3 inches. So now we know that this is 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now if we take a closer look, we know that this is 1 inch. We know that this mark here is a half, then quarter, and then eighths. So each one of these marks on the 3 inch scale is actually 1/8 of an inch. And so you can see how this differs, and you have to sort of slow down with each scale to figure out what the inches are. But if you take your time, it's pretty simple to figure out. But let's take a look
at seeing at how to read the 3-inch scale on the drawings. For that, we're going to turn the page to section view here. This is an exterior wall section view. This is the interior part of the house. This is the exterior. It's a double stud wall house. So I want to know then the distance between this outside edge to the inside edge of the stud. Say I wanted to figure out what the sill plate width needed to be. So if I roll over here to my 3-inch scale mark, I can start with my 0 and I'm moving to the left. I'm going to see, is this bigger than a foot? And you can see that it is not. It is actually less than a foot. So I know then that I need to move then and work off the inches scale. So starting at the 0 line, moving to the right, I'm measuring in inches. I'm on the exterior stud here, and I'm counting over 3, 6, 9, and I see 2 marks. I know each mark is an 1/8, so 2/8 or 1/4. So now I know that this exterior wall and what I need to purchase for the sill for this is 9 1/4 inches. You can see then how beneficial this tool is when you need to get numbers off the plans quickly. If any of this didn't make sense, or if you have some other questions, leave them below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all your smiling faces next week.